Alright, today we're going to be servicing the Cold Start Fuel Injector on a 1979 Volkswagen Beetle. This is a white-on-white Cabriolet Wolfsburg edition. This year Volkswagen has a 1600 engine, but it's fuel injected. You can see it has an air box, has injectors down in there. It's not injected into the actual combustion chamber. They're tuned port injection right into the intake manifold, which is these gray tubes right there. And so it sprays fuel into the intake manifold as opposed to spraying fuel into the combustion chamber. So it's what they call tuned port injection, but it's fuel injection. Well, when you have fuel injection, it means you don't have a carburetor. So what are you going to do on cold start? Usually when your engine is cold, you need a little squirt of fuel just to get some fuel into the air tubes, because they're basically just devoid of any kind of fuel. It's just straight air, and until the engine's running, there's no fuel that's going to be exchanged through those injectors. So that's what this little device does, is it squirts a little bit of fuel right into the air box right down in here. This is the beginning of the intake manifold, and it's where all of these tubes they come off of, right in the back there. So in this case, this particular apparatus, the car was not starting. The only way I could get it to start was to open up the little air boot right here and squirt a little starting fluid or some brake clean or something in there, some volatile spray, and then close it up, and it would start right up with no problem, and it would run fine after that. But once you get to the grocery store and you stop, the car won't start again. So I was just at one point just carrying around a can of spray and a Phillips screwdriver so I could get the car to start. Well, that's not a solution. So when I finally took the time to diagnose this injector is good. There's not a problem with this injector. I was able to test it, ran a 12-volt lead on here, put a little bit of carburetor cleaner in a tube here, and when I activated the solenoid here, the carburetor cleaner dribbled out. So that's all good. And then when it's not running, it closed, and you could hear the solenoid opening and closing, and it was reliably working. So we don't need to worry about replacing this. What it turned out is that this hose had failed, so there was no pressure. On the back side of the hose, it had failed over time, got cracked and whatnot, and so when the fuel pump would pump fuel, it would squirt it out, and it was actually, on cold start, there was fuel dripping right here and rushing down the engine. So easy to diagnose, not incredibly easy to fix. So let me show you how it is that you take this out. So first of all, there's two holes. You can see the two screw holes, and it's just two Phillips screws. They look like this. And those screws screw in to these two little holes right in there. You can see the center is where the injector goes into, and there's two little screw holes right there, and that's where that goes. You can gain access to those directly from the top. That's not a problem. But what you do have a problem with is that in order to gain access to those, you have to take the little boot off. So this device kind of goes like this. Connects to the air box right there. That meters the airflow. The little electronic air meter that meters how much air is going through there, so it knows how much fuel to send. There's a tube here that goes to the breather back over here, right there, and another tube here that goes to the oil breather that comes down here to the oil filter. So there's, these tubes, they kind of go all around the place, but when this big rubber boot is there, you can't gain access. So you have to take this off and take all of its supporting hoses off in order to get to the point where you can get to these two screws. They come straight up. I really recommend that you use a magnetic screwdriver, and anytime that you're passing screws over the top of the intake manifold, make sure that you have this covered, or just be very cautious not to drop screws into your intake manifold right here. So this little hole right here would be tragic if you threw a screw in there. So yeah, use a magnetic screw. Almost everything in here is aluminum, so a magnetic screwdriver will hold onto the screws with no problem. As you pass through, they won't be interfered with any other kind of a ferrous metal. So almost everything is aluminum through here. That'll get you to the point where you can pull these things off, and then you'll be able to remove this. The problem with removing it is that it's connected with this hose right here to this pipe right here, and this pipe doesn't move much, and once it's screwed in, it's pretty much in there. So it takes some wrangling to get that in there, but that's the trick. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a gasket here, and we'll throw this back in, and we'll have a look. So here you can see I've got it in place. The screws are just lightly screwed in. The whole apparatus moves around a little bit. So you can see that moves. I don't have the screws tightened down all the way, but they're loose in there. Now what I've got to do is get the end of that hose over the end of this pipe. And this pipe is it's a T-shaped pipe, and it goes all the way around here, all the way to this right here, which goes down to these injectors. So everything's kind of connected. So if I take this, I just give it a squeeze like that. Look what it does. It moves that whole thing. So I should be able to squeeze this here and then bend that pipe up on there. What I've got, I don't know if you can see up in here, the connectors for that pipe. I run them up onto that pipe so that once I get that pipe in there, I can just push those connectors down onto that little piece of 5/16 piping. So that's all I need to do is give that a push and wrangle this hose, and then that whole pipe will slide right back on there. If you want, you can put a little bit of motor oil right on the opening of that pipe right there, just to make it a little easier for it to slide in. You know, dry pipe and dry rubber doesn't work that well. Normally, when I need to move rubber, I'll wet it with a little bit of dishwasher soap, but in this case a little bit of motor oil won't hurt it, just to make it just a little bit more slippery for that pipe to slide into that hose. All right, it's kind of a two-hand thing, so I'll check back in when I get to that. All right, so there you go. Got this is loose in there. I still got these screws loose. You can see it wiggles. I got this this hose onto this little pipe. These connectors here, they just slide down now because I pre-staged them. Easy enough to get them over the little V's. There we go. So we'll arrange those so that they're easy to tighten and easy to get access to should I ever need to later. Quick comment about these connectors. All right, so when you get ready to take everything off, you have to take these connectors off, right? So these things are made of plastic and they have a spring on them. And you know, this thing it's a 79, so I mean these could be old and brittle pieces of plastic. So don't wrench on the plastic. What you want to do is you can see right here the little slot where the little other plastic slot goes in there. All you want to do is take the slack off of this spring, and you can do that. You can do that by pushing it right here. Can you see that? This little piece of spring that sticks right here on the back side, you can gain access, and you can make that metal piece of spring give you a little bit of gap. And it's made that way. You can see these things move. And that way you're not wrenching on this thing and you're not going to break this old brittle plastic. So anyway, that's a quick little comment about that. All right, let's continue with the assembly, and then I'll give it a good test run. All right, so just one more quick look. Got it all screwed in down here, these screws. Got the hose clamps on to this little hose, goes to the pipe. Everything's routed. I've got the big boot back on the top and on the bottom back in here. See the connector for the bottom part. It's like right in there. There's a lot of pipes and hoses and things that go in here, so you really can't see it until you know what you're looking for. But before I put this last hose back in place here, it goes right there, you won't be able to see anything. But before I put that in place, I just wanted to really quick do a quick review. This is the Cold Start Fuel Injector on a 1979 Volkswagen Beetle. It's a 1600 engine, tune port fuel injection. Anyway, the symptom that we had is that the car will run, but it won't start when it's cold, and that's because this apparatus, in my case, had no fuel pressure because this line was broke. But sometimes this gets clogged, and you know, whatever it is, the diagnostics for a cold start, when you know you have a spark, you know that you have fuel pressure, you have fuel in the engine, everything else is going, but it just won't start without a spray in the intake, then you need to have a look at this injector. This injector only comes on when you're starting the engine. After it's running, it turns itself back off again. So it's just only for cold start. So that's the summary for today. I'm going to go ahead and close this thing up and then we'll get it started. Okay, so let's see if she starts. Like I thought it would. So there you go. Make sure you subscribe for more.